Even though the Rolex Explorer I is absolutely everywhere on YouTube, there are still a few things that I wish I knew before I bought it. And while I personally love the watch, it is probably not the right one for you. So if you're curious to find out why, stay tuned. Hey folks, what up? I'm Mo from Watch Small Problems, and welcome back to my channel. I remember the day that I got my Rolex Explorer like it was yesterday. I bought it to celebrate a huge milestone in my life, graduating from my MBA, and I've been in love with the watch ever since. It is often considered a one-watch collection piece, which basically means you can wear it with literally anything, from casual to formal, and it never really looks out of place. The 36mm case size is perfect for many other small wristers like me out there, and it wears incredibly well, and usually I just tend to forget that I'm having a watch on at all, which is amazing. But even though I love it and I almost wear it daily, I think actually for being this popular, the watch is quite specific and definitely not for everyone. So let's just start with the updates to the newest generation. Compared to the previous 36mm versions, the new Rolex Explorer reference 124270 brings modern updates like the improved caliber with a 70-hour power reserve. It brings also sturdier bracelet with solid end links and has a brighter lume, which has a rather bluish color, I would say, that looks a little bit more modern and sporty and definitely lacks the vintage appeal. Overall, the case proportions are a little bit chunkier, and the polish elements as well as lacquer dial make it a bit dressier, which might not sit that well with purists who prefer the rugged simplicity of earlier Explorers. So it definitely has a bit less of these field watch vibes that many people loved about it. And while it's undeniably more refined and bold, which I personally like and also made me choose the new model over the old references, there are so many owners here on YouTube that claim that it's straying from the tool watch roots that defined the original 36mm Explorers. So all I'm saying here is please do your research before picking a Rolex Explorer model. So if you're looking for a dressier watch, get the newest reference, and if you're more looking for vintage vibes, I would recommend the older reference, for example the 114270 or the 14270. Next up, let's talk size and wrist presence. Because in reality, it is more like 35.5mm really if you measure it. And when worn on a bracelet, it's not that noticeable, but many people feel that when slapping it on a NATO, it almost disappears on your wrist. And by the way, the lug width of the new reference is 90mm, so all of the regular 20mm NATOs that many of us have lying around won't fit it. And also you will need specific rounded spring bars because the straight ones will not leave enough space between the case and the spring bar for the NATO to pass through comfortably, which will ultimately result in breaking your NATO over time. Anyways, my point here really is that it's probably not that versatile when you want to wear it on a strap as opposed to the previous generations. And also the sheer size of it, the 35.5mm, will feel a little bit underwhelming for some. In relation to the case size, the thickness of 11.5mm, which in general is not very thick, it's quite thin actually, looks a little bit off in this case, and I feel like the proportions could have been better, especially when you compare it to, I don't know, Black Bay 58 or a Rolex Submariner, where the ratio or the relationship between the size and the thickness is just a little bit better. But again, as I said, the watch wears thin, it looks amazing. It's just that when you look at it from the side, the proportions just don't really feel right. Also, the bracelet tapers down from 90mm to 40mm, which looks quite dramatic and unusual. And then the clasp, which is a little bit on the longer side of the spectrum, makes the bracelet of the watch a little bit unconventional or even controversial. I mean, obviously these are small details, but still there are a few people out there who said that they just couldn't get used to it and ultimately sold the watch because of the bracelet. Next up, let's talk lack of complications. No questions asked, don't get me wrong. A big part of the charm of the Explorer is being minimalist to its core. But keep in mind that this also means no GMT, no date, no chronograph, just having the time. For some, this might be too limiting in an everyday watch, especially if you're somebody who likes complications like a date function or chronograph and uses them on a regular basis. So considering the fact that this watch is seen as a great tool watch, which definitely it is, the simplicity really here is a little bit of a double-edged sword. My advice here really would be make up your mind first which functions you're looking for in an everyday watch. And for example, if you want to have a chronograph to time the sets in the gym or have a date window to track the date in the work environment, just be aware that the Rolex Explorer won't provide these functionalities. Next up, let's talk the price and availability. We all know that with Rolex, you're paying for the name and the heritage and also the status. But even considering that, still the Explorer sits at a hefty premium. And for some collectors, this can be hard to justify, especially when there are watches like the Tudor Black Bay 36 or even the new Omega Seamaster Aquaterra with a black lacquer dial that offers similar styling and functionality at lower prices. By the way, I'm currently developing an app called Chrono Guide, which I used to take a look at the user reviews of the Rolex Explorer, which you can see here. And I found that some of the people feel that the price doesn't quite justify the features, especially if you compare it to the alternatives. So when getting the Explorer, just consider the fact that luxury brands like Rolex probably have the highest profit margin with their simple stainless steel watches, where you're mostly paying for the brand name and not really for the features and materials. And of course, getting some can be quite a hassle. I mean, you all know the Rolex waitlist game. So if you try to navigate around that and want to go gray, perfect, do that. But please, please, please be super careful with all of the fakes around, because the newest fake generations are incredibly well made. Just check the subreddit called Rep Time. I mean, the first time I saw this, I almost wanted to cry, because nowadays you really need that magnifying glass to see the difference. So please be super careful here. Alright, now let's talk the conservative design of the Rolex Explorer, which is super understated and maybe the one reason why it is so iconic in the first place. And for many, that's a big plus because it flies under the radar, it's extremely versatile. But if you're somebody who is looking for bolder, more daring watches with unique features, the Rolex Explorer could maybe feel a little bit too safe, maybe almost boring with its monochrome design and the black dial. So there's many people that just lose interest in it after some time and then sell the watch. For me, no one ever really asks me about the watch or recognize it as a Rolex, and the ones who did are people that work at an AD, or they are just watch nerds like me. My takeaway here is, if you're looking for a statement piece that gets recognized outside of the watch bubble, the Rolex Explorer is probably not the right one for you. However, this is of course true for all of the everyday watches. And that's because as soon as you design a watch that fits every occasion, you need to make a compromise from the design perspective somehow, right? So you end up with a watch that definitely can do it all, but is never the most sporty, dressy, or classic watch in the room. Next up, let's talk the usability, which is super important for an everyday watch. When we take a look at the bracelet, there is a 5mm quick adjust, but there is no micro adjustments like on the Tudor T-Fit clad, for example. And then there's all of the polished elements on the watch, especially on the sides, for example, which are great for elegance, but they can also be a magnet for scratches and fingerprints, and after a few days and weeks, you'll get the first scratches on your watch. This is pretty normal, but for a watch that is meant to be a tool watch and handle rugged environments, I think this could become a concern for somebody who's really picky about keeping your watch in a pristine condition. Okay, and with that being said, let's wrap up the video. When I read through all of the user reviews that I found online, I saw that many people mentioned the same pain points, like the smaller size of the watch feeling a bit underwhelming or the lack of a date function. And this when I realized that the watch community needs a video addressing these things. But please don't get me wrong here. For me personally, it's the Grail watch that was worth the wait for many years and definitely ticks all the boxes. And it's also a watch that definitely can handle many situations, from working at the office to hiking up a mountain. But I just think it's important and to acknowledge that what makes it perfect for me certainly doesn't make it the perfect choice for everyone. And by the way, if you want to see more community reviews about the Rolex Explorer and also find your own personal dream watch based on AI suggestions, you could use my new app Chrono Guide that I'm currently developing. So you can sign up for free on chrono.guide and you will be notified as soon as the app is released. Promise. Okay, so what do you think? Is the Rolex Explorer the perfect do-it-all watch? Or do you agree that it's probably not the right pick for everyone? Please let me know in the comments below, and maybe also hit that like and subscribe button, which would be a huge help for me at this point. And with that being said, see you in the next one.